Chapter 1. Stellan's Point of View. He's awake! Get the doctor, now! The voice slams into me before my eyes fully open. I gasp. The ceiling above me is white and humming with fluorescent light, and before I can even figure out where I am, the door bursts open and the room floods with people. 3 doctors, 2 guards built like refrigerators. A woman in a sharp blazer clutching a tablet so tight her knuckles have gone pale. My chest burns. My throat feels like sandpaper. Every single muscle in my body hurts in a way I have no words for. Mr. Voss. A doctor leans over me, shining a thin light directly into my left eye. Can you hear me? Do you know where you are? No, I manage. He exhales like he has been holding that breath for a full day. You've been unconscious for 31 hours. You were in a serious accident, Mr. Voss. Quite honestly, you should not be alive right now. I stare at the ceiling and let that land. 31 hours. Serious accident. Should not be alive. None of it feels real. There are reporters outside. The woman in the blazer cuts in, stepping forward with the energy of someone whose entire job is damage control. 47 at last count. The story broke 6 hours ago. We've managed the public statement. But once your husband arrives, we need you composed and— My husband? I say. She stops and looks at me. Yes, Alistair Thorne. She says the name like it should detonate something inside me. Like I should sit up straighter, smooth my hair, arrange my face into something presentable. Instead, I just stare at her, and the silence stretches long enough to make her uncomfortable. He's been notified, she continues carefully. He's on his way. A nurse sets a thin glowing rectangle on the bed beside my hand. A phone, I realize, though it looks nothing like anything I have ever seen before. The screen lights up on its own, and I flinch. The nurse notices. Her eyes flick to my face with a look I cannot quite read, somewhere between concern and confusion. Mr. Voss, is everything all right? Fine, I say quickly. I'm fine. I am not fine. The door opens again before anyone can say another word, and the entire room changes. The doctors straighten. The guards shift. Even the woman in the blazer pulls her shoulders back half an inch. The air pressure in the room literally feels different, and I turn my head toward the door before I can stop myself. He is tall. That is the first thing I notice. Broad shoulders filling the doorway, dark hair slightly disheveled like he dressed in a hurry, jaw set in a hard, clean line. He is wearing a gray training jacket with a national crest on the chest, and his eyes, when they find me across the room, are the color of deep water, cold and unreadable, and very, very still. Stellan, he says. Just my name. Nothing attached to it. No relief, no warmth. No exhale of someone who was frightened and is now reassured. Just my name, delivered like a formal greeting between strangers. Alistair, I answer, because apparently that is his name, and apparently he is my husband, and apparently I am supposed to know what to do with that information. He crosses the room, stops at the foot of my bed, looks me over, the way a person inspects a car after a minor scrape, checking for damage, calculating the cost, already thinking about what comes next. The doctors say you'll recover fully, he says. That's good news, I reply. Something moves through his expression. Fast, barely visible, gone before I can name it. He looks at the doctor. When can he be discharged? That is when something cold settles into my stomach, because he is not asking when I will feel better. He is not asking what I need. He is asking when this inconvenience concludes, and everyone in the room hears exactly that, and nobody says a word about it. Then it hits me. Not a thought, a memory that is not mine. A hallway, marble floors, my own voice, raw and cracking, saying, You haven't looked at me in 6 months, Alistair. 6 months. Do I even exist to you anymore? And his voice, calm as still water, answering, I don't have time for this conversation tonight. The memory vanishes as fast as it came, and I am back in the hospital bed, staring at the man standing at the foot of it, and my chest aches with a grief that does not belong to me. I reach for the only distraction available. My hand closes around the phone the nurse left beside me. The screen blazes to life. A cascade of notifications floods across it. Hundreds of them. Names and symbols and alerts I don't understand. And without thinking, I tap the wrong thing. The phone emits a loud sound, something between an alarm and a notification chime, and every head in the room turns toward me. The blazer woman stares. The doctors stare. Even the guards glance over. Alistair's eyes drop to the phone in my hand, then rise back to my face. Something shifts in his expression. Not warmth, more like the first flicker of genuine attention. "I'll arrange the discharge," he says quietly, and walks out. The room breathes again. I set the phone down carefully, like it might go off a second time, and stare at my unfamiliar hands against the hospital blanket. When the nurse finally clears the room and I am alone for the first time, I notice a slim book wedged between the bedside table and the wall. I almost leave it, then I pull it free. A photo album. Old, soft-cornered, the kind kept not for display, but for private keeping. I open it. The first page stops me completely. Two people. A younger Alistair laughing with his whole face, one arm thrown around the shoulders of a silver-haired Omega, whose gray eyes are bright and full and happy. They are standing somewhere warm, somewhere golden, and the Omega is leaning into Alistair like he is the safest place in the world. I recognize the face immediately. It is mine. I turn the pages slowly, photo after photo. The same two people, younger, closer, unbothered. Alistair's hand always finding the Omega's shoulder, his waist, the back of his neck. The Omega always turning toward him, like a plant turning toward light. I reach the last photo and close the album. Outside the window, camera flashes pop against the glass, like small, relentless lightning strikes, and the question I cannot answer sits heavy in my chest. What turned the man in these photographs into the stranger who just walked out of this room without once asking if I was okay? Chapter 2. Stellan's Point of View. 2 days later, I was discharged, but the mansion does not feel like a home. 3 floors of glass and stone, sitting behind a perfectly manicured lawn. Every light off except the ones the security team controls. Nobody is waiting at the door. No housekeeper, no assistant, nobody who thought to leave even one warm lamp on. Alistair is not here. His team manager called during the drive to say training resumed at dawn. The woman in the blazer, whose name I have learned is Dana, Alistair's publicist, hands me a keycard at the entrance like she is checking me into a hotel. "The west wing is yours," she says. Alistair uses the east. "The kitchen staff comes at 7. Call the house number if you need anything." She leaves before I can ask a single question. I stand in the entrance hall and listen to the silence. It is the loudest silence I have ever heard. I take my time moving through the house, because there is nothing else to do and nowhere else to go. The west wing opens into a sitting room, decorated in cool grays and whites. A bookshelf lines one wall, but when I run my finger along the spines, a thin layer of dust comes away on my skin. These books have not been touched in a long time. The bedroom stops me cold. One side of the bed is perfectly made, untouched. The other side has a single indentation in the pillow, the kind left by someone who sleeps alone so consistently that the mattress has simply accepted the shape of their solitude. On the nightstand sits a glass of water, long evaporated, and a charging cable connected to nothing. I sit on the edge of the bed and pick up the phone Dana gave me as a replacement for the one destroyed in the accident. She already loaded it with the previous Stellan's accounts, his contacts, his passwords, everything I need to pretend to be him. I open the first app with a bluebird icon, and the world pours in. The search results for Stellan Voss read like a slow disaster. Post after post, headline after headline, and every single one of them cuts in the same direction. Desperate Omega chases football star husband. Alistair Thorne's clingy spouse causes scene at charity gala. Sources say World Cup captain embarrassed by unstable husband. The comments underneath are worse. People using his name like a punchline. Strangers dissecting his marriage for entertainment. Years of it, hundreds of posts, thousands of comments. I set the phone face down on the mattress and stare at the ceiling. The previous Stellan loved Alistair. That much is already clear from the hospital photo album, from the shape of this bedroom. He loved him completely and openly, and the world watched Alistair ignore it, and then the world laughed. Another memory comes without warning, the way they always do. A gala, crystal chandeliers, the original Stellan in a fitted silver suit, threading through a crowd of people who part around him like he carries something contagious. He spots Alistair across the room, laughing with 3 teammates, relaxed in a way he never is at home. The original Stellan starts toward him, gets within arm's reach, and Alistair's eyes slide past him without stopping, the way your eyes slide past furniture you have stopped noticing, and the original Stellan stands very still in the middle of that glittering room and absorbs it. He does not cry, he just turns around and finds an empty corner and stands there alone for the rest of the night. The memory releases me and I am back in the bedroom, jaw tight, hands pressed flat against my thighs. I pick the phone back up. I find the messaging app and open Alistair's contact almost by accident, the way your finger finds a bruise without meaning to. What I see makes me go completely still. Message after message after message. Scrolling up and up and up, weeks becoming months, becoming what looks like years. Long messages, short ones, some that are just a single question, some that run so long the screen cannot hold them. Every single one sent by the original Stellan, timestamped at all hours. 2 in the morning, 6 in the evening, the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. I read the first few. I made dinner. Are you coming home tonight? I saw the interview. You looked tired. Are you sleeping okay? I know you're busy. I just wanted to hear your voice. I'm not angry. I just miss you. Is that allowed? My throat tightens. I keep scrolling, looking for Alistair's responses. A reply. Anything. Even one word sent back across all that time and all that longing. I scroll until my thumb aches. There is nothing. Not one reply. Not one acknowledgement. Not even a single read receipt to confirm that the messages ever landed anywhere other than the void. Hundreds of messages. Zero answers. I lock the phone and set it on the nightstand, next to the evaporated glass of water, and I sit in the silence of this beautiful, hollow mansion, and I think about a man who spent years pouring himself into a conversation that was never going to be returned. Downstairs, the front door opens. Footsteps cross the entrance hall, heavy, unhurried, familiar with the space in the way that only ownership creates. They stop at the base of the stairs, a pause. Then they continue, not toward the west wing, but away from it, toward the east. The door to the east wing closes. The silence returns. I look at the unread messages on the nightstand and realize that I am living inside someone else's grief, and I have absolutely no idea yet just how deep it goes.
Chapter 3, Alistair's Point of View. My coffee is already made when I walk into the kitchen. That has never happened before, not once in 4 years. Stellan used to wait for me in the mornings, positioned near the door like he was afraid I would leave without him noticing. Now the coffee sits on the counter, still warm, and Stellan is already at the breakfast table with his back to me, reading something on his phone like I am not here at all. "Good morning," I say. "Morning," he replies. He does not turn around. I set my training bag down and pour myself a cup. I wait for him to say something else. Ask about my schedule. Ask about training. Ask about anything. The way he always used to, filling every silence between us with words I never had the patience to answer. He says nothing. He just scrolls his phone and sips his coffee, and exists in this kitchen like I am simply another piece of furniture he has learned to work around. I sit across from him at the table. He glances up briefly, the way you glance at a clock. A quick, functional look that takes in only what it needs and moves on. Then his eyes drop back to his phone. "How are you feeling?" I ask. "The doctor said you should be resting." "I'm fine," he says. "Thank you. Thank you." Like I am a stranger who held a door open for him. I watch him for a moment. The silver hair falling slightly across his forehead, the gray eyes moving across his screen with calm, quiet focus. 4 years I spent looking away from this face every chance I got, and now I cannot seem to stop looking directly at it. "Dana wants to schedule a joint appearance," I say. "Something low profile, just to manage the press after the accident." "Okay," he says. "You don't have to agree immediately. We can discuss it." I said okay, Alistair. He turns a page on whatever he is reading. "Schedule whatever you need." Something about the way he says my name lands differently than it used to. Flat, clean, no weight behind it, no longing, no buried hope that I will respond with something warm. Just my name. I drink my coffee and say nothing. Training is brutal that morning. 2 hours of drills, and I run every set harder than necessary because the image of Stellan's back at the breakfast table keeps surfacing in my head at inconvenient moments. My teammate Jace catches up to me on the final lap and claps me on the shoulder. "You look angry," Jace says. "More than usual." "I'm focused," I tell him. "Your husband doing okay? After the accident?" "He's fine." Jace gives me a long look. "You sure? Because you've checked your phone 4 times since we started warm-ups." I hadn't realized I was doing it. I shower, change, and drive home faster than I need to. I tell myself it is because Dana needs documents signed. I sign the documents in under 4 minutes and then stand in the entrance hall for a moment longer than necessary, listening to the house. Music, coming from the West Wing sitting room. Something slow and unfamiliar, playing at a low volume. I follow the sound without deciding to. Stellan is on the sitting room floor, cross-legged, surrounded by what looks like every book pulled from the dusty shelf against the wall. He has them sorted into piles I cannot identify the logic of, and he is reading the back cover of one with the same focused expression he had over his phone this morning. The music plays from somewhere. He does not hear me in the doorway. I watch him turn the book over in his hands, tilt his head slightly, set it in one pile instead of another. His movements are unhurried, unbothered. He looks, I realize, genuinely content. Quietly, privately happy in a way I have never once seen on his face in the entire time we have been married. I spent 4 years watching him chase my attention across rooms, just like this one. Now he is sitting in the middle of that same room and he has not once looked toward the door. I clear my throat. He looks up, sees me, offers a small, polite smile, the kind you give a neighbor you recognize but do not know well, and looks back down at the book. Dana left files on your desk, he says. I think they need signing. Already done, I say. Okay. He opens the book to the first page. I stand there for another moment. Then I go upstairs. I tell myself I am not bothered. I eat alone, answer emails, review match footage for 2 hours. At midnight, I walk past the West Wing on my way to bed and notice the light under the door is off. I stop, stand in the hallway, for no reason I can justify. Then I push the door open quietly, just enough to see. Stellan is asleep on top of the covers, still fully dressed. One of the books open and face down on the pillow beside him. His breathing is slow and even. His face, in sleep, is completely unguarded. No politeness, no careful distance, just a person at rest. I stand there longer than I should, and then, without any warning or permission, the corner of my mouth pulls upward. I am smiling. I close the door quietly and stand in the dark hallway, and the smile disappears immediately, replaced by something much colder and much more uncomfortable. Because I have never smiled watching Stellan sleep before, not once in 4 years. So why am I starting now?
Chapter 4. Stellan's Point of View. 2 weeks after returning to the mansion, Dana appears at my door at 7 in the morning with a press schedule, a new outfit in a garment bag, and the energy of someone who has already had 4 coffees and made 12 decisions before sunrise. Pre-tournament press event, she says, holding the garment bag out. You're expected in 2 hours. Smile, stay close, don't say anything interesting. She is gone before I can ask a single question. The venue is enormous. I know football matters in this era, but nothing prepares me for walking into a space filled with thousands of people who are not even here for the actual matches yet. Screens cover every wall. Cameras point at everything. People wear jerseys the way other people wear their personalities on the outside, loud and committed and entirely unapologetic about it. The noise alone is something physical, pressing against my chest like a second heartbeat that does not belong to me. I find a spot near the entrance and stand there, trying to look like I belong. You look like someone just dropped you on a foreign planet. I turn around. The man behind me is tall, dark-haired, with an easy smile that belongs to someone who has never once walked into a room and worried about whether he was welcome. He is wearing a training jacket with a national crest on the chest, and he is looking at me with open, uncomplicated curiosity. Not the way the press looks at me, like I am a headline waiting to happen, just genuine interest, like I am a person he would actually like to know. Rowan Mercer, he says, extending his hand. You must be Stellan. That obvious? I shake his hand. Little bit, he grins. Also, your publicist has been circling this room looking for you for the past 10 minutes. You might want to look less lost before she finds you. I glance over my shoulder. Dana is indeed cutting through the crowd with the focused expression of someone solving a problem. I turn back to Rowan. Where is the best place to not be found at one of these things? He points toward the back of the hall without hesitating. Follow me, he is Alistair's rival. I piece that together from my memories when 2 photographers spot us walking together and immediately raise their cameras. Rowan notices too, but his expression does not change. He just keeps walking, unbothered, and holds the side door open for me, like the cameras are not there at all. He leads me to a back table loaded with actual food, instead of decorative appetizers designed to look good in photographs, but dissolve into nothing the moment you bite them. He hands me a plate like we have done this 100 times before, easy and natural, no performance attached to the gesture. First big event since the accident? He asks. Is it that obvious? You looked at that automatic door for a full 3 seconds when we walked in. I was thinking, I say. About the door? Doors in general. He laughs. A real one, full and unguarded, and something in my chest that has been pulled tight since the hospital loosens just slightly at the sound of it. I had forgotten what it felt like to make someone laugh without trying. We eat standing up and talk about nothing urgent. He asks what I have been reading. I tell him about the books from the West Wing shelf, and his eyes light up because he has read 2 of them. He asks my opinion and actually waits for the full answer, following up with questions that prove he heard every word. Nobody at any event I have attended since the accident has asked me a single question that was not about Alistair or the marriage or the accident itself. It is so uncomplicated, so easy. I cannot remember the last time, in this life or any other, that a conversation felt this effortless. And then, another memory surfaces without warning. The same gala from before, but earlier in the evening. The original Stellan is standing beside Alistair at a table full of people laughing at something, and he says something quietly into Alistair's ear, something small and private, and Alistair's expression does not change, does not soften. He just turns slightly away, angling his shoulder between them, like a door closing, and the original Stellan's smile fades so carefully, so practiced, that nobody at that table even notices it happening. The memory releases me, and Rowan is saying something about the tournament schedule. Sorry, I say. What was that? He tilts his head. You went somewhere just now. Old habit, I tell him, and he accepts that without pushing, which is its own kind of kindness. We talk for another 20 minutes. He tells me about his team, about the pressure of captaincy, about a restaurant near the stadium that makes food that actually tastes like something his grandmother would recognize. He is funny without trying to be, warm without performing it. He treats me like someone whose company he genuinely enjoys, rather than someone whose connection to Alistair Thorne makes him useful to know. When Dana finally locates me, her eyes move from my face to Rowan's and back again with the speed of someone calculating something she has not yet decided how to handle. Mr. Voss, she says carefully. We're needed for the group photo. Of course. I set my plate down and turn to Rowan. Thank you for the food. Anytime. He smiles. Then, loudly enough that the 2 photographers hovering nearby definitely hear every word, he says, Can I get your number? I want to finish that conversation about the books. I blink. Every camera in the immediate vicinity swings toward us. Dana's hand tightens on her tablet. Rowan stands there looking completely at ease, like he just asked me something entirely ordinary, like Alistair's name does not exist anywhere in the same atmosphere as this moment. I reach out and take his phone. The cameras catch all of it. Chapter 5. Stellan's Point of View. The photos are everywhere by morning. I find out when I open my phone at 6, and the notifications have multiplied overnight into something that looks less like a social media account and more like a small emergency. Every photograph from the press event has been cropped to the same moment. Rowan handing me his phone, my hand reaching out to take it, both of us standing closer than the rest of the room required. The captions write themselves. World Cup rival, Alistair Thorne's husband and enemy captain, caught exchanging numbers. Is the most controversial marriage in football finally over? I set the phone face down and make coffee. Dana calls at 6:15. Do not post anything. Do not respond to anything. Do not leave the house without telling me first. Good morning to you too, I say. She hangs up. Alistair comes down at 7. He pours his coffee, picks up his own phone, and I watch his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly as he scrolls. He does not say anything for a long moment. Then he sets the phone down with slightly more force than necessary and looks at me across the kitchen. Rowan Mercer, he says. He introduced himself at the event, I reply. Dana left me alone. He's not someone you should spend time with. I look at him directly. Why not? Something moves through his expression. He picks his phone back up. He's my rival. It looks bad. For who? I ask, and I keep my voice entirely even, and Alistair has no answer for that, so he finishes his coffee in silence and leaves for training without another word. I watch the door close behind him and feel nothing in particular about it. Rowan texts at 9. Not about the photos. Not about the press, or Alistair, or any of it. He sends the name of a book with a single line underneath. Chapter 4. Tell me you saw that coming. I did not see it coming in the book at all. I text him back, and we spend the next 40 minutes arguing about it, and it is the most fun I have had since waking up in that hospital. He shows up at noon. I open the door, and he is standing there with 2 paper cups of coffee, and the unbothered expression of someone who checked the headlines this morning and decided they were not his problem. "That restaurant is open," he says. "The one I told you about. Come on. Dana said not to leave without telling her. So tell her." I text Dana. She calls back in 14 seconds. I let it go to voicemail, put my shoes on, and follow Rowan out the door. The restaurant is small and warm and nothing like the places Dana schedules for public appearances. The tables are close together, and the menus are handwritten, and the food arrives fast and tastes exactly like Rowan promised. Real and unpretentious, and satisfying in a way that expensive food rarely manages. We sit by the window and the afternoon light comes in at an angle, and for a while I forget entirely about the mansion and the unanswered messages and the cold weight of a marriage I inherited along with this body. Rowan teaches me how to use 3 different apps on my phone without once making me feel strange for not already knowing. He explains them the way a patient person explains directions, clearly, without assumption, doubling back when my face goes blank without making the blankness into a problem. "You're very calm about all of this," he says at one point, watching me navigate an app with the careful concentration of someone learning a new language. "All of what?" He gestures loosely. "The photos. The headlines." "Alistair, there is nothing to be disturbed about," I say. He studies me for a moment. "Most people in your position would be either furious or falling apart. I'm neither," I tell him honestly, and he smiles like that answer confirms something he already suspected. I laugh 3 times during lunch. Real laughter, unplanned, the kind that arrives before you can decide whether it is appropriate. The 3rd time it happens, Rowan looks genuinely pleased with himself, and I realize I do not mind that at all. We are walking back when another memory hits. No warning, no lead-up. One moment I am beside Rowan on a quiet street, and the next I am somewhere else entirely. A hallway I recognize from the mansion. Late at night, every light off except the one under the bathroom door. The original Stellan is sitting on the floor outside that door, with his back against the wall and his knees pulled to his chest, crying without making any sound at all. The kind of crying that has run out of noise, just tears and shaking shoulders and both hands pressed over his mouth, because even alone, even in the dark, he will not let himself be heard. I come back to myself on the pavement, and my hand is pressed flat against the nearest wall. "Stellan." Rowan's voice is close. His hand is on my shoulder. "Hey, look at me." I look at him. My vision is blurring at the edges. "What just happened?" he asks. "Headache," I manage. "It came out of nowhere." He does not look entirely convinced, but he does not push. He keeps his hand on my shoulder until my breathing evens out, steady and unhurried, like he has nowhere else to be. The headache does not fully leave. It sits behind my left eye for the rest of the time home, dull and insistent, and when I pass the turn in the road, where the mansion gates first come into view, it sharpens so suddenly and so violently that I stop walking completely. The street looks familiar, too familiar, not from the past few weeks of living here, from something else, something bone-chilling. My vision flickers. For one single second, I see the pavement beneath my feet, and it is covered in blood.
Chapter 6. Rowan's Point of View. Something is wrong with Stellan Voss, and I cannot stop thinking about it. Not wrong in the way the headlines mean, wrong in a way I cannot name yet. I walked him to the mansion gates after that headache hit him on the street. Watched the color drain from his face like someone pulled a plug, and the look in his eyes in that moment was not pain. It was recognition. Like he saw something that made terrible, specific sense to him. He told me it was just a headache. I did not believe him then. I do not believe him now. Sitting in my hotel room at 11 at night, staring at the ceiling, with his contact open on my phone. I type, "You okay?" He replies in under a minute, "Fine. You?" "Liar." I type back. 3 seconds pass, he replies, "Probably." I smile at my phone like an idiot. My teammate, Marco, walks in without knocking, sees my face, and stops in the doorway. "Who are you texting?" "Nobody." "You're smiling at nobody." "Go away, Marco." He does not go away. He drops onto the other bed and stares at the ceiling with me. "It's Stellan Voss, isn't it?" I say nothing. "Rowan. He is married. To our biggest rival." "I know that. So what are you doing?" I put the phone face down on my chest. "Talking about books." Marco stares at me for a long moment. Then he gets up and leaves without another word, which is somehow worse than if he had argued. I pick the phone back up. Over the next 4 days, I learned things about Stellan that no headline has ever come close to capturing. He is funny in a dry, understated way that sneaks up on you. He asks questions about everything, genuine questions, the kind that come from actual curiosity rather than politeness. He has opinions about things most people never think twice about. He notices details that other people walk straight past. And every single time I make him laugh, I feel it like something landing in the center of my chest. Warm and inconvenient, and impossible to ignore. We meet for lunch on the 4th day, and he is already at the table when I arrive, reading something on his phone, with his full attention the way he does everything. "You're early," I say, sitting down. "You're late," he replies, not looking up. "I'm exactly on time." "Then I was earlier." He sets the phone down and looks at me, and the corner of his mouth is already pulling up. "How was training?" "Brutal. Marco thinks I'm losing my mind." "Are you?" I look at him across the table. "Possibly." Something in his expression softens slightly, and then he picks up the menu, which means I said something that landed, and he has decided not to respond to it directly, and I have learned in 4 days that this is simply how Stellan handles things that matter to him. We order. We eat. He tells me about a memory that surfaced that morning, framed carefully as a dream, and I listen without pushing, because I have learned that too, that Stellan shares things in his own time and his own way, and the worst thing I can do is reach for them before he is ready to hand them over. But then I mention Alistair. Not intentionally. His name comes up in the context of the tournament schedule, one captain against another, completely neutral. Stellan's face does that thing. That dimming. That half-second where the warmth pulls back and something older and heavier moves through his eyes. It is there, and then it is gone, and he is nodding along to whatever I just said, but I saw it. "I always see it. You don't have to pretend," I say quietly. He looks at me. "Pretend what?" "That his name doesn't do something to you." A pause, long enough that I think he is going to change the subject. Then he says, "It's complicated," and the weight he puts on that word tells me that complicated does not begin to cover it. "You deserve better than complicated," I tell him, and I mean it simply, without agenda. And Stellan looks at me for a moment, like that sentence is a language he is only just learning to understand. He does not respond, but he does not look away either. We are walking out when I hear it. Alistair's voice, coming from the side street running alongside the restaurant. Low and controlled, the way people speak when they are angry and trying not to show it in public. I stop without meaning to. Stellan stops too. Alistair is standing 10 feet away with his phone pressed to his ear, and he is looking directly at Stellan, and what he says next is quiet enough that most people would miss it. I do not miss it. "Get over here, Stellan." My hand tightens at my side. Stellan's expression does not crack. He holds Alistair's gaze for exactly 3 seconds, then turns and keeps walking like nothing happened, smooth and unbothered and completely unconvincing to anyone paying close enough attention. I fall into step beside him and say nothing, because there is nothing useful to say right now. But something has settled in my chest. Something clear and decided and slightly frightening in how certain it feels. Stellan Voss is married. I know that. I have known that since the first day. It has not mattered to me for a single second, and standing on this pavement watching him absorb whatever Alistair just said without flinching, I realize it is not going to start anytime soon.
Chapter 7. Stellan's Point of View. The first match day arrives like a wall of noise. Dana has me in a stadium hospitality box by noon, surrounded by sponsors, journalists, and the kind of people who attend football matches, not because they love the game, but because being seen here matters to their careers. Everyone knows my name. Everyone has an opinion about my marriage. Everyone speaks to me with that particular careful brightness that means they are calculating exactly how much of what I say will end up in a headline. I smile, I nod, I say nothing interesting. Rowan's team takes the field first, and the stadium shifts into something louder and more alive than anything I have experienced since arriving in this era. I find myself actually watching, actually invested. When Rowan scores the opening goal in the 32nd minute, I am on my feet before I realize I am standing. The cameras in the hospitality box catch it immediately. After the final whistle, the press area outside the tunnel fills fast. I am being guided past it by Dana when I pull out my phone and type, "That first goal." Where did that come from? I hit send before Dana can see the screen. I slide the phone into my pocket and keep walking. The press area outside the tunnel is already overflowing when we reach it. Rowan emerges with his team, still in his kit, hair damp, laughing at something Marco said. He spots me across the crowd at the same moment I spot him. He checks his phone, reads my message, and looks up with a grin wide enough that I can see it clearly from 20 feet away. I stop walking. Dana says something behind me that I do not hear. I raise my hand and call across the crowd, loud enough that the journalists nearest to me turn around. Congratulations. You played brilliantly. Every camera in the vicinity swings toward me like compass needles finding north. Rowan calls back, "Thank you, I had a good audience." 2 feet to my left, Alistair has just emerged from the opposite tunnel with his own team. I feel him go still beside me the way you feel a temperature drop. I do not look at him. I keep my eyes on Rowan for exactly 1 more second, then turn and follow Dana toward the exit like nothing happened. Alistair's hand closes around my arm before I get 3 steps. "A word," he says. Quiet, controlled like the earth is about to freeze over. He guides me through a side door and into a corridor beneath the stadium, all concrete and fluorescent light, the noise of the crowd muffled to a low vibration through the walls. The door closes behind us. "What was that?" he asks. "A congratulatory gesture," I say. "He scored. It was a good goal." In front of every camera in that stadium. "I didn't arrange the cameras, Alistair." His jaw tightens. "You know exactly what you were doing." "I genuinely do not know what you think I was doing. You're embarrassing me." Something cold and clear moves through me. "I said congratulations to someone who played well. If that embarrasses you, I think the problem is not mine. He is my rival, and he is my friend," I say. "Those two things can exist at the same time." "Your friend." He says the word like it tastes wrong. Since when does Stellan Voss have friends? The corridor goes very quiet. I look at him for a long moment. At the tension in his shoulders and the heat behind his eyes and the complete absence of any awareness that what he just said was cruel. Not intentionally cruel, casually cruel, the kind that comes from a long habit. "Since now," I say. His phone buzzes in his pocket. Then again. His team manager's voice comes through the door, calling his name with the urgency of someone who has been looking for a while. Alistair holds my gaze for 3 more seconds. Then the door opens and his manager physically pulls him back toward the tunnel, and I am alone in the corridor with the fluorescent hum and the muffled roar of 60,000 people above my head. I press my back against the wall and breathe. Another memory arrives in the silence. A phone. The original Stellan's hand, holding a phone he has never seen before. Not his usual one, smaller, a number he does not recognize lighting up the screen. He stares at it for a long moment before answering. The voice on the other end is low, careful, speaking with the deliberate pace of someone who has rehearsed this. "You need to know the truth about what happened," the voice says. "All of it. Meet me tonight. Come alone." The original Stellan's hand tightens on the phone. His breathing changes. "Who is this?" he asks. A pause. Then the voice says something. A name, a place, something specific enough that the original Stellan's face goes completely white. The memory cuts. I am back in the corridor, both hands pressed flat against the wall behind me, my heart hitting my ribs so hard I can feel it in my throat. Someone called him that night. Someone who knew something. Someone who told him to come alone, and then the accident happened. And sometime after that call, the original Stellan Voss ended up dead. I stare at the fluorescent light above me, and the question arrives with the quiet certainty of something that has been waiting its turn for a long time. Was it really an accident? Or did someone make sure he never made it to that meeting? Chapter 8. Stellan's Point of View. 3 days after the stadium argument, Alistair changes. I notice it the morning he comes downstairs before I do, and makes coffee for two. He sets my cup on the table without being asked, without announcing it, without making it into something that requires a response. Just a cup of coffee in the right place at the right time. I sit down and drink it and say nothing. He tries again the next day. This time it is breakfast. Simple, nothing elaborate, but plated and ready when I walk into the kitchen. He is already seated, reading something on his phone, and he gestures at the plate across from him like it is the most natural thing in the world. "You didn't have to do that," I say. "I know," he replies. I sit down and eat, and we say nothing else, but he stays at the table until I finish, which he has never done before in all the time I have been in this house. By the 4th day, I understand what is happening. Alistair Thorne is courting me. Quietly, carefully, without any of the language that would require me to acknowledge it directly. Small things, Consistent things. The kind of effort that is designed to accumulate rather than impress. It would be working, I think, on the original Stellan. On me, it lands differently. You don't have to do this, I tell him on the fifth morning, when I find a book on my nightstand that I mentioned once in passing 3 days ago. The exact edition I described. Placed there while I was sleeping. He is in the doorway of my room, leaning against the frame. I'm not doing anything. Alistair, I just thought you'd want it. I look at the book and then at him. Why now? He is quiet for a moment. Because you're different from before. I had an accident, I say carefully. It's not just the accident. He straightens. Looks at me with something open in his expression that I have not seen there before. You're quieter now. You don't chase. You just exist, and it's... He stops. Starts again. I notice you now. I don't know how to explain it better than that. I sit with that for a moment. What happened to the person who existed before? I ask. The one you didn't notice. His jaw tightens slightly. Not in anger. In something closer to shame. That's fair, he says quietly. It's a question, I tell him. Not an attack. He looks at the floor. I wasn't kind to him. I know that. And yet, here you are, I say. Being kind to me. He has no answer for that. He leaves quietly, and I sit on the edge of the bed with the book in my hands and feel the weight of everything that sentence contains. Rowan calls that afternoon. How are you? Alistair bought me a book, I say. A pause. Should I be concerned? I don't know yet, I tell him honestly, and I hear him exhale slowly on the other end of the line. Stellan, he says, you know you don't owe him anything. Not a second chance, not an explanation, not even a conversation. I know that. Do you? I look out the window at the perfectly maintained garden that the original Stellan never sat in. He's trying, Rowan. I can see that he's trying. People can try and still be wrong for you, Rowan says. Effort is not the same thing as safety. I do not have an answer for that either. The World Cup reaches the semi-final stage and the city tightens around it like a fist. Every surface has a flag or a fixture list or a sponsor's logo. The matches are all anyone talks about. Dana schedules 2 more public appearances and I attend both, smile correctly, say nothing interesting, and spend the rides home thinking about what Rowan said. Effort is not the same thing as safety. Alistair drives me to the second appearance himself. We sit in the back of the car, and he asks about my book, what I thought of the first chapter, whether I want another by the same author. He listens when I answer. He follows up. He laughs once, quietly, at something I say, and it sounds so much like the man in the photo album that something in my chest does something complicated and unwelcome. I look out the window and think about the original Stellan, about those hundreds of unanswered messages, about the bathroom floor, about the way his smile faded at that gala so carefully that nobody noticed. Can people truly change? Or do they only change when the thing they ignored finally stops being available? I do not know. That night I fall asleep earlier than usual, and a new memory finds me the way they always do, without permission. The original Stellan, the night of the accident. He is dressed to go out, phone in hand, standing in the entrance hall of this mansion. The front door is ahead of him. He is about to leave for the meeting. The mysterious caller's voice is still fresh in his memory. Then footsteps on the stairs behind him. He turns around. Alistair is standing at the top of the stairs, looking down at him with an expression I have never seen on his face before. Not cold, not distant, something else entirely. Where are you going? Alistair asks. The memory stops. My eyes open in the dark bedroom, and my heart is slamming against my ribs, and the question sits in the silence, like something with weight. Alistair was there. He was there that night. Chapter 9. Stellan's Point of View. I wake up on the morning of the World Cup final, already knowing something is going to break today. Not a premonition, just the particular weight of a day that has been building toward itself for weeks. The city outside my window is already loud before sunrise, horns and music and the sound of people moving in one direction with one purpose. I lie in bed and stare at the ceiling and think about Alistair at the top of the stairs. Where are you going? Those few words. That is all the memory gave me before it cut. But the expression on his face when he said them, that is what I cannot stop turning over. It was not anger, not jealousy, not the cold distance I have grown used to seeing on him. It was something more controlled than any of those things, and that is what unsettles me. Dana knocks at 8. Final today. You're expected in the box by 11. I'll be ready, I tell her. Alistair is already downstairs when I come down, dressed for the match, kit bag by the door, eating in the focused mechanical way of someone fueling a body rather than enjoying a meal. He looks up when I walk in. How did you sleep? He asks. Fine, I say. You? Fine. He looks back at his plate. Then, without looking up again, will you be watching? Yes, I say. He nods once and says nothing else. I make coffee and stand at the counter, and the kitchen is very quiet, and I think about everything Rowan said. Effort is not the same thing as safety. Alistair leaves without another word. I watch the door close behind him and drink my coffee alone and wonder, not for the first time, what kind of man he was before whatever happened between him and the original Stellan hollowed both of them out. The stadium is overwhelming in a way that even the earlier matches did not prepare me for. Every seat filled, every screen blazing. The noise when the teams walk out is physical, a wall of sound that hits the chest before it reaches the ears. I find my seat in the hospitality box, and Rowan's team takes the field, and something in me settles. I watch every minute. Rowan is extraordinary. I have watched enough matches now to understand what I am seeing, and what I am seeing is someone who makes the game look inevitable, like the ball always intended to go exactly where he sends it. His team scores in the 21st minute, and the box erupts, and I am on my feet again without deciding to stand. Alistair's team fights back. The second half is brutal, tight, neither side giving anything away. With 10 minutes left, the score is level, and the box has gone very quiet in the particular way of people who are afraid to breathe in case it changes something. Then Rowan scores. The stadium comes apart. Confetti, noise, 60,000 people standing at once, and I press both hands over my mouth and feel something hot and bright moving through my chest that takes me a moment to identify because I have not felt it since long before I woke up in that hospital. Joy, clean and uncomplicated and entirely mine. Alistair's team does not recover. The final whistle blows, and Rowan's team wins, and the celebration on the pitch is immediate and enormous, and I watch Rowan lift the trophy with both arms above his head, face turned up toward the lights, laughing with his whole body, and I think, he deserves this. He genuinely deserves this. I text him one word, congratulations. He replies from the pitch, somehow, in the middle of everything, come find me after. I am still smiling at my phone when Alistair walks into the box. He looks like someone scraped him off the floor. The loss is all over his face. Not just disappointment, something deeper, the particular devastation of someone who wanted this badly and came close enough to taste it. He sits down heavily in the seat beside me and says nothing for a long moment. I'm sorry, I say, and I mean it. He looks at me. Are you? Yes, I tell him simply. He exhales, runs both hands through his hair, and then he says, very quietly, I need to tell you something about that night. Everything in me goes still. Stellan, the memory hits before he can finish the sentence. The mansion entrance hall. The original Stellan dressed to leave, phone in hand. Alistair at the top of the stairs. The argument that followed was fast and vicious. Alistair's voice low and controlled. The original Stellan's cracking at the edges. Words sharp enough to leave marks, accusations, denials. The original Stellan backing toward the front door, refusing to stay, refusing to listen to one more word. And then the confrontation. Alistair coming down the stairs, closing the distance, his hand on the original Stellan's arm. The memory strains, blurs. The final moment trembles at the edge of reach, like something just below the surface of dark water, and then it breaks open. I see the entrance hall. I see Alistair's face. I see exactly what happened next. My vision goes white. Stellan. Alistair's voice from somewhere close. Stellan, look at me. I look at him, and now I know what happened. Chapter 10. Stellan's point of view. I look at Alistair and I know everything, not in pieces, not in fragments that cut off before the worst part. All of it, complete and sequential, and impossible to unfeel, sitting in my chest like something swallowed wrong. The argument, the confession, the staircase. The way he stood over the original Stellan's body at the bottom of those stairs and made a calculation instead of calling for help. The hospitality box is still loud around us. People celebrating, screens replaying the final whistle, confetti still drifting down from the upper levels. Nobody is looking at us. Nobody notices that the air between me and Alistair Thorne has become something entirely different from what it was 60 seconds ago. Stellan, he says, what I was going to tell you, I remember, I say. He goes completely still. I remember the argument, I say quietly. I remember what you told me. I remember the staircase. The color leaves his face so fast, like watching a building lose its foundation. His mouth opens, closes. He looks at me with the expression of a man, watching the only door out of a burning room seal itself shut. Stellan, you have been doping for years, I say. The gambling syndicate you fixed matches for. The caller who wanted to give me the evidence. I keep my voice low and even, because the alternative is something I cannot afford in a room full of cameras. And what you did when you realized I was going to walk out that door with all of it. He says nothing. There is nothing to say. The silence between us is the most honest thing that has ever passed between this body and that man. You didn't come to that hospital because you were worried, I say. You came to see how much I remembered. His jaw tightens. That is not... And when the doctor said I might have memory trauma, you were relieved. I look at him directly. Every coffee, every book, every careful quiet morning in that kitchen. You were kind to me because you thought the memories were gone and you were safe. No, his voice cracks slightly on the word. No, that is not all of it. What I feel for you now is real, Stellan. You have to know that. What you feel for me, I say slowly, is for someone who does not exist. I am not the person who loved you for years and sent you hundreds of messages you never answered. I am not the person you pushed down those stairs. I am someone else entirely, living in a body you already destroyed once. He flinches. Full body, unavoidable. The kind that cannot be controlled. I did not mean for it to happen, he says. I panicked. I have lived with regret every single day since. You think I don't know what I did? You think I haven't? I think, I say carefully, that living with guilt is not the same thing as facing consequences. His eyes go sharp. What are you going to do? Report me? You didn't die, Stellan. I am not guilty. I look at him for a long moment. At the man in the photo album who once laughed with his whole face before marriage. At the man who spent years making someone invisible in their own marriage. At the man who stood at the top of a staircase and made the worst decision of his life and then spent weeks being kind to the person wearing his victim's face because he thought he was finally, permanently safe. The caller, I say, he still has the evidence. Alistair's entire body changes. Stellan, listen to me very carefully. The people involved in this are not people you can simply... I know what they are, I tell him. That will not stop me. Look what happened to you when you found the truth, Alistair says. And the moment the words leave his mouth, I watch him realize what he has just said. His face collapses. I didn't mean... I know exactly what you meant, I say. I stand up. He reaches for my arm, and I step back. And something in my expression stops him completely. His hands suspended between us. And for one long moment we simply look at each other across everything that has happened and everything that cannot be undone. You should speak to a lawyer, I tell him, before someone else makes that decision for you. I walk out of the hospitality box and the noise of the stadium closes around me like water, and I keep walking. Rowan is outside the tunnel entrance with Marco and two other teammates, still in his kit, the World Cup medal around his neck catching the light. He sees me coming, and his expression shifts immediately, reading something in my face that makes him step away from his teammates without a word. Hey, he says, talk to me. Not here, I say. He nods once and falls into step beside me, and does not ask another question until we are away from the cameras and the crowd and the noise. In a quiet corridor 2 levels below the celebration, just concrete walls and fluorescent light and the distant muffled sound of 60,000 people who do not know what just happened upstairs. Then he turns to face me and waits. I tell him everything. Not carefully, not in the measured way I have handled every conversation since waking up in that hospital. All of it, from the staircase, to the syndicate, to the moment Alistair's face went white in that hospitality box. Rowan listens without interrupting, without moving, his eyes on my face the entire time, and when I finish the corridor is very quiet. He murdered me, Rowan says, not a question. Yes, he exhales slowly, looks at the floor, then back at me. Are you safe? I think so, I say. He thinks he can still manage this. He can't, Rowan says simply. Not anymore. I look at him, at the medal still around his neck, and the honesty in his face, and the way he is looking at me right now. Not with pity, not with the complicated calculation of someone deciding how this affects them, just with the clear, uncomplicated concern of someone who is entirely on my side. Something in my chest loosens for the first time since the memory broke open. I don't know what I am in this world, I say quietly. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next or who I'm supposed to be. I woke up in someone else's life, and I've been trying to survive it ever since. You don't have to be anyone you don't choose to be, Rowan says. That's the whole point. I look at him for a long moment. Then I take one step forward, away from the direction of the hospitality box, away from the mansion and the unanswered messages and the staircase and everything the original Stellan carried alone for years. Toward Rowan. He does not move. He just stays exactly where he is and lets me close the distance at my own pace. And when I stop in front of him, he looks at me like I am someone worth waiting for. Okay, I say, you will be safe with me, he says back. Above us, 60,000 people are still celebrating a clean and honest victory, and for the first time since I arrived in this future, I feel like I might actually belong in it.
The end. Stellan walked away from the man who murdered the person whose body he now lives in. But Alistair's feelings were real. His guilt was real. His change was real. So here is the question that matters. If you were Stellan, could you ever forgive Alistair? Drop your answer in the comments. There is no wrong answer here.